Before we get started, okay, that's me. Before we get started, I just want to give a huge shout out to the ACDA board and chapter members, for continuing to support the trademark ACDA Speaker Series. I feel like a lot of great conversations are being had, and I hope they continue to get had throughout the following semesters, where we're probably going to be not online so much, but I just think it's really great what we're doing here. So now I would like all of our amazing panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Alex. Basically, the questions are, I want you guys to introduce yourselves by your name, your education so far, so any degrees that you have or are in progress, and then just for fun, your favorite genre of music. So when you're ready, Alex.
My favorite genre of music, that's like starting off with a hard question. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Koppel. I have gotten a couple of degrees. I got an audio engineering degree first. I have a music education degree from Cal State Fullerton. My choral conducting master's degree from San Jose State, and I am currently in the middle of my doctorate degree in choral music at Indiana University. My favorite genre of music, I don't know, music is like my life, so I don't get to listen to music very often as like a pastime, so I'm just gonna say not country. I'm gonna leave it at that.
All right. My name is Jack Bertrand, and I formerly taught in Bakersfield for 5 years prior to this, but I'm a Western Michigan University undergraduate student. I was an undergraduate student there, and had a degree in instrumental music education. And then I did my level 1 of Kodai at CSU Bakersfield, and I am now at Michigan State, and I'm in my first year of a master's in choral conducting. I'm like Alex, when you're studying music, you don't listen to a lot. But I will say the 2 times I am always listening to music is when I work out and I listen to like queer ballroom scene music, which is like everything, or if I'm studying because I'm like hardcore ADHD, I have to have music on of some kind, and so I listen to chill hop, and it's so good.
Awesome. All right, Kyle.
So I'm Kyle Ball. I have an undergraduate in vocal performance and music education from Western Michigan University. And then I taught for 5 years in Bakersfield, and now I'm doing my master's in choral conducting at San Jose. And my favorite type of music, I guess, or the one that I just put on the most if I'm turning on music that's not for school, is like folk rock or indie rock.
Yeah, that is it for
JB.
I know I went a little over, and
Hi, my name is JB. My pronouns are they and she, and I have a degree in choral music education or something from the University of Houston, go Cougs, and then taught for 5 years at Spring High School in Spring, Texas. And anyone who's taught for any length of time knows that you learn just as much or way more from the act of teaching than you do in school. And I am currently a master's student at San Jose State University, getting a degree in choral conducting. And my favorite genre of music is podcasts. So.
And Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Nitzan. I have a BA in music from Pomona College. I got my teaching credential at Cal State Fullerton. I taught for 4 years in the Sacramento area, and then I got my master's at San Jose State with many of you lovely people in choral conducting. And now I am long-term subbing virtually at Saratoga High School. And favorite music. There was just a discussion about this on the I'm a choir director Facebook group about like, do you listen to music on your own time? And everyone was like, no, we don't, because there's something weird about that. But when I do listen to music, I love to listen to like folk pop kind of stuff. Anything that has great harmonies I can sing along to. My first love is the Indigo Girls, so think that genre.
And last but not least, Noah.
Hello, I am Noah. You can call me Noah. I got my undergraduate degree in vocal performance at Chapter Meeting University. I just happen to be wearing the sweater today as well. Go Panthers. And I graduated in 2019 from there and went straight to San Jose State later that fall, master's in choral conducting. My favorite genre of music other than virtual choir learning tracks has to be barbershop harmony.
Awesome. My basic understanding of this has been musicians go through severe music fry, and yeah, it's interesting. I myself, I love like Broadway show tunes, but like after a semester of juries and stuff, like it's just listening to can be hard sometimes. But yeah, let's get right into the question. Yeah, barbershop. So the first question that I have for you guys today is about networking. In undergrad, I think we hear a lot about, networking, like it's a great way to, jumpstart your career. And, it's really important to make these like connections in your undergrad while you're still young. In your like past education, like what have been some of the best ways that you guys have networked with other people? Like obviously it was a very nice surprise to see that like most of you guys knew each other before we started. So what are some of the ways that you guys go about it? Starting with Alex.
That's a pretty, it's a great question, first of all. I think that you are right, that this field, I think even Jack said as we started, it's a very small world. And it's really important to get to know that world as quickly as possible, as a lot of the people that you are working with now are going to be people you're working with in 5 years and in 10 years. And I still keep pretty close contacts with people from Cal State Fullerton, and I've done virtual choirs halfway across the country with people that I've known over the last 15 years. And it's a really important thing. I think that really the best way to go about it is stuff that you guys are already doing, being involved in ACDA, going to conferences, things like that. It's a great way to network. I think people think that going to ACDA conventions is about going to the sessions. It's not. It's about seeing your friends and getting drunk and doing the things with them. But just knowing them and being in front of people there is a great way to network. And also not being afraid to say hi to anybody. If you don't know somebody, just jumping in and being like, "Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm from blah blah blah." And it's really good to meet you. We're here in the same place together. Hey, do you want to go get dinner? I'd love to get to know you. So, being a outgoing person is, I think, a helpful thing in this venture. But I'm sure that some of the other panelists will have some other introverted views of that, because I'm just the person that's like, "Hi." So.
And Jack, let's hear what's because you're in Michigan right now, but you're familiar with some of the other panelists. I'd love to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, okay. A couple things come to mind when I think about networking. So I'm a recovering tryhard / social climber. As an undergraduate, I was very much pushed into you must network and you must know all the people and you must make good impressions and go to all the conferences. So I did, and it was good. Networking is what got me both of my teaching jobs, but it was through college colleagues that were working in the district that helped me get in. But Alex is totally right. I mean, go do the thing, go to the conferences. Things that I would add to that are know your craft and be amazing, because no amount of networking can hide the fact that you don't know what you're doing and that you're not skilled or ready to be taking on teaching positions or what have you. I think I would also pair with that, be a genuine person. The older I get, the easier it is for me to see through people. So I imagine myself as that 21-year-old who was like, oh my gosh, be my friend at conferences. And I'm like, ooh. So just keep in mind, like go talk to people, like get yourself out there, but like, don't be someone you're not, because people see through that really fast and they will remember that too. So the impression you want to make is one that is organic and who you really are.
All right, and Noah, you're like one of the freshest out of undergrad. What's your perspective on networking?
Yeah, this is kind of going along, I think, with what Alex said just about conferences in general. Kind of in addition to conferences, it seems kind of obvious, but like just going and supporting your colleagues' things is always a good thing to do. Like it seems kind of obvious to like go to someone's junior recital or go to someone's recital, or just help out with like their virtual choir project in these pandemic times. Just be willing to help out, within reason, obviously, because we all have our own stuff that we're dealing with and whatnot. And then the second thing I was going to say, I think, as we get to know people in music school, I think it's a popular thing to just kind of complain about your professors or your classes or the piece that you're singing or the person who's conducting you and stuff like that. And it's a good release every once in a while to kind of just shit talk every once in a while. But I'm not going to tell you to not do that, but rather I'm going to encourage you to shit talk people in a positive way. Like even if they're not in the room, you can go up to someone and be like, hey, did you see this person's conducting? Wasn't that great? Or, hey, did you see that person's presentation at the conference a while ago? That was amazing. Just get yourself in that mindset, because that's, even if you're like a super introverted person, like I consider myself pretty introverted. If you get yourself in that habit of just like positively thinking of people and getting yourself a little bit more in that mindset, it does kind of open you up to people just a little bit more.
All right, and then for Kyle, JB, and Beth, I wanted to know, how does networking reflect in, the education world? Like, is it any different? How do you interact with other music teachers, as well as like teachers or teachers of different subjects? Like, how does that work for you guys? Starting with Kyle.
I think like the main, or one of the main things I can think of in that respect is, as your teacher, is know your colleagues. So if you're, for me, I was teaching at the high school. I knew very well my colleagues that were teaching in the middle schools that fed me, because then I could work with them to go into the classroom. So the kids knew me, knew my name, knew my face before they even got to the high school. And then at the compatriots level, so like other high school teachers, like Jack and I were very fortunate to be in a district where they kind of forced us to work together a lot, and there was 18 high schools in one district. And so they, were like, we had 15 choir directors that we could always call up and talk to, and we went around and we switched classrooms occasionally, just so that way the kids could hear different points of views, so you could realize what something stupid you're doing in your classroom, kind of thing. And then going past that is also get to know the people who are teaching in the college level around you, because they want to recruit from your school. So they're going to come and work with your kids for free most of the time, just because they want to do recruitment. So networking that way within the community and stuff is going to move you past like anywhere you can do anything you can do just on your own, kind of thing. As far as it goes, like with teachers on campus, be friends with everyone, especially the athletics director, especially all of the secretaries, whoever's in charge of finance. Bring them treats, bring them cookies, make them your best friend, because that will make your life 10 times easier. And kids want to come and shit talk their teachers to you. Don't join back in with it. Listen, go, okay, hear them out. But don't be like, oh yeah, I've heard that Mr. So-and-so is just an ass the whole time. Like, don't do that kind of stuff.
All right, and JB, so you said that you're from Houston. So we're gonna be talking about like teaching different places a little later. But how does networking work any different? In different states, especially like the South. How it reflects over there?
I mean, I wouldn't say that it works any different. I totally agree with everything that's been said so far. I have very little to add, except actually a pretty amazing anecdote. But in general, Texas functions like a bubble. It functions like a big bubble, and I don't know how similar California or Western whatever is in that particular regard, but there is a sense of there's kind of a sense of who is and who are the people to know. There's an obvious, like, if you're a climber, like, it's really easy to like see, this is who I need to know, this is who I need to know, this is who I need to know, if that's your bent, if that's your idea. All the stuff that Kyle was saying about as an educator with your colleagues, I mean, I'm not sure that's, it is absolutely networking. It's also like just being a good it's being a good colleague, it's being a good teacher, it's being a good director. It's going beyond like, I'm a teacher who teaches these subjects and then grades these papers and then goes home and says like, no, I'm a director of a program, and the survival and thriving of my program is dependent upon me being a good person and a good colleague who is not like beyond just kind to students, but also a member of the school community who knows the other teachers on campus, whose friends are like, who is a good colleague with the other fine arts teachers on campus, who is a good colleague with the administration. And like Kyle said, the secretary is the athletics director, the middle school directors, or if you're a middle school teacher, then the high school directors, and elementary, vice versa. That said, I want to share that I have a friend who at conference someone invited him out to drinks with us, and we went out to drinks, and it was like probably after midnight, and most of the colleagues were probably not sober, and he was talking about how he was looking for a job, and we were talking about how our district was looking for somebody to teach at a school. And the next day, this guy is interviewing with the director of fine arts for the district, just in the hallway at convention, while he's wearing like, no socks and Toms. And so and he got the job, and then he was one of my colleagues for a couple of years. So that stuff is absolutely real. It is absolutely about making connections.
Awesome. And then, all right, Beth, you said that you've been substituting as of late. Do you feel like your professional relationship with the other teachers is the same as, as their relationship with the permanent teachers, or is there a different way that you go about it?
Yeah, it's absolutely not the same. There just really aren't the same opportunities, I think, to build those relationships in the virtual setting. We have once a week staff meetings, and that's, we're all just little boxes on a screen. So the people that I work closely with, I do get to know, and everyone else, not so much. But just some other thoughts about networking, right? As Varun has been saying, meeting people, so important. But I think sometimes we forget the very day-to-day nature of networking, that it's not just something that happens when you are, meeting people or trying to like build those friendships in a way, but it's something that, is about how they get to know us and our work and our style every day. So just trying to be like on it as much as possible. So maybe 2 years from now, when you do say, hey, I really need a letter of recommendation for this thing, or whatever it is, that the person that you're asking that for has this, great rapport with you of, oh yeah, this person is really fantastic, and I feel like I really can, recommend them wholeheartedly. So sometimes it's just the boring stuff of being a responsible and good person who does your homework.
All right. Yeah, just by the way, your cat, it sounds so cute. So yeah, just in general, like be a good person. All right, so and then on to our next question. This one has more to do with the process of choosing your master's program, because I feel like it's very intensive. It's shorter, and the choosing process, the audition process is a lot more rigorous than the undergrad is. So like when choosing a master's program, when choosing a university to study at, what are some of the biggest like red flags / green lights that you look out for? And then we can start with Noah this time.
That's a great question, given that I applied to about 2 graduate programs. But the big point I would say is just be prepared, or not prepared, just be open to ending up somewhere where you didn't really expect it at all. Because flashback 2 years, this is spring 2019 when I'm still at Chapman doing a vocal performance degree. I knew right away that I didn't really want to pursue voice anymore, only because I just knew that I didn't want to put too much more energy into solo singing / opera. So choral conducting / music education is kind of the route I wanted to go more towards. So I immediately started looking at credential programs at all the CSUs like San Jose State and Bakersfield and Long Beach and all that stuff. That in itself was a weird process because of how difficult some of these websites are to navigate and whatnot, but that's a different discussion. Anyways, the point is, at San Jose State, it was definitely one I was looking at a lot because my parents live like 20 minutes away, so it would be a perfect fit in terms of like saving rent and not having to like look for roommates / an apartment and stuff like that. And I tried to get in touch with the people that are running the credential program and stuff like that. I will say that Dr. Diana Hollinger, who was for a long time at the music ed head at SJSU, little hard to get a hold of, especially through email and whatnot. It was actually Dr. Jeffrey Benson who I got in touch with first, and we were talking about my goals and what I wanted to do, and I was talking about how I wanted to get a credential of some sort, and he said, "Well, why don't you apply for the master's while you're at it?" And I threw my hat in the ring there, and it ended up working out. And by the time that all that got sorted out, I kind of not gave up on credential programs, but sort of shifted my focus. The only other grad program I was really deciding between was, other than SJSU, was a master's in, I can't even remember the acronym now, but it was a master's in general music education teaching at USC. And from there, the choice was pretty simple because USC costs a lot of money, while SJSU, I saved, a good amount on tuition. Plus, and it wasn't just that, obviously, it was the fact that if I was going to be a choral music educator, better I get a master's that's really, really, really focused on that rather than USC, which was a great program, honestly, but it was a little bit more geared towards just general like K through 12 music education, which is just me personally, not something that I was as interested in. But that's kind of my story. And the moral of it is, I came in wanting just a straight up credential, but actually ended up finding something even better. So yeah.
All right, and Kyle, if we can get your perspective on some of the things that you, like the positive things that you looked out for when choosing the master's program.
So someone else suggested this to me, and I don't remember who it was at this point, so I can't give credit. But it was a big leading factor into my decisions of where I was applying to was for your master's, you want to get podium time. So you don't want to go somewhere that has doctoral students, because the doctoral students are oftentimes going to get preference for podium time. So for me, that was a big deal because that was, I wanted to have that experience. Also, I was looking at places that would offer assistantships in some sort of way because I didn't want to pay for my master's as much as I could. So things like that were, the top of my list and what I was looking for. Also, I was going places that I knew the director. For your master's especially, it doesn't matter what the name of the university is, it matters who your teacher was. So, coming here to San Jose, I'm coming because of Dr. Benson. I also applied to Fullerton because of Dr. Eistad. And the names and the, I can't think of the word I want, the weight that their names pull kind of thing.
All right. And JB, let's hear about some of your red flags, just some things that you don't necessarily want to encounter in a master's program.
Well, I think that, yeah, actually the two red flags, and this is really strictly talking about, first of all, my experience, and second of all, choral conducting master's program. And I also wouldn't call them red flags per se, because they also aren't deal breakers for many people. But number one is that if you go to Dr. Benson and say, hey, where are the master's programs that I shouldn't have to pay for because they're paid for through assistantship or scholarship or something, Dr. Benson probably is going to be able to give you a list, because there are quite a few out there. There are quite a few prestigious places that you have to pay a lot of money for, and there are quite a few places that the university itself might not be as prestigious, but there might be this just absolutely amazing professor there who's building an amazing program that you don't know about, and that professor has found a way to make sure that master's students are funded, but you wouldn't know about it unless you asked those specific questions to Dr. Benson or to a different person in that field who can guide you down that path. And then the other thing is, I agree with Kyle in that I feel very happy with the decision to go somewhere that doesn't have doctoral students, personally. And I've never been a master's student at a place with doctoral students, but I did tour, I spent a little bit of time at a few places that did and a few places that didn't, and I really liked the balance here at San Jose, where there are only master's students and there's a tight, solid group of them as well. And the other thing that honestly I didn't consider as much as I wish I had is that the program to which you go for your master's is an amazing networking place in the community where that university is. So I went to my professor, Dr. Weber, and said, where should I apply? And she was like, very few places left her mouth, and San Jose was one of them. And so I'm here, and this is an amazing school, and we've met with prospective grad students, and as we've kind of talked about our experience, it's clear that we really kind of all love it here. But I never really thought about the idea that well, if I spend 2 years of my life here, I'm going to be networking and building social capital and building connections in this particular neck of the woods. And so if I want to live here, that's great. And if I don't see myself living here, then maybe I should have thought about where I do see myself and just given more time closely thinking about those places. So just many foods for thought.
All right. And Alex, having been done with your master's program, how do you feel that your expectation, or how do you feel like the program sized up against your initial expectations going into it?
Are you talking specifically about SJSU?
Yeah, SJSU.
Yeah. So something Kyle said rings pretty true in my ears, that your master's degree is not about the name of the school, it's about the name of the person you're working with. And while I agree that because their name holds weight, for me, it was more about the musician that they were going to turn me into, because I knew that my master's was going to be a stepping stone to a doctorate. I had planned on that for a long time, and I knew what I needed to make sure that I was a really good candidate to get accepted to as many doctorate programs as possible. It was also a very kind of like Noah. It was a good moment where my parents lived in Santa Cruz, so it was very close, and I ended up I was working there already, so it worked out that I didn't have to move to go to my first grad program. But It really, as I said, not to I think we all understand how amazing Jeffrey is at what he does and making us into amazing human beings. But it was, again, his name at the end of the day and his recommendation letter, and I worked my ass off for him so that I got a good recommendation letter from him in the end. So whether I can say the program stacked up or not, if you work hard for the person that you are going to get a master's degree with, the program is semi-inconsequential if you want to go on and do more school after this. That being said, if you are, the type that knows that the master's degree is kind of the end of the run for you, and you want to make the most money you can in a job, you bet your ass that a degree from USC is going to look more impressive than SJSU. But it just depends on what your goals are. And for me, I wanted somebody who was going to make me the best musician that I could be, so I could take that next step.
And Beth, if we can get your perspective on, your decision-making process when, going into the program.
Yeah, so I actually am also sort of a bad person to ask about this because I only applied to one grad school, which was San Jose State. Thank God that worked out. But one thing that I do want to add as a word of caution as we're all sitting here like just praising, Jeffrey and San Jose State, all this. I really, really recommend that you go somewhere that you did not go for undergrad to get your graduate degree. I feel very strongly about that. I think that you learn from the different people that you work with. And even if those people are fantastic, if you keep going, with that same person, you're just missing on all this extra stuff that maybe you learned from somebody else and you won't even know, because while that person is fantastic, they have their way of doing things. So I really encourage you to broaden your horizons as much as possible when you're looking at graduate programs, and think about the person that you're going to be working with and just make sure that you have talked to them and you get along with them and you like them and you want to work with them for a couple of years. So that's my 2 cents.
And that is an excellent transition into our next topic of discussion. Jack, being in Michigan and then you said, or California as well, like how do you think you benefited from getting these getting an education from 2 very different parts of the country? And how do you feel that your education and your teaching style have benefited from it?
To be honest, it has nothing to do with music. The benefit is that I have lived in many different places and I've worked with students who look different and who have different backgrounds, and that makes me a more sensitive teacher, one who listens better and one who recognizes as a white male that I am not the center of the universe. And that was a good thing, coming from like living in rural Michigan when I went to high school, where probably 95% of the school was white. In fact, I sent a direct message to Alex earlier, like made a joke, but like, I mean, I'm serious. Like, it was so nice to not see a sea full of white people in the room today, because being in the Midwest, like even in grad school, we have 1 person of color in our program out of 12 people, 12 or 13 in our program. 1 person is not a person, or is a person of color. So that was like one of the best things for me. When I lived in Flint, I didn't teach in Flint. I taught north of there, but I lived in Flint, Michigan while I was teaching here. And then while I lived in Bakersfield, which is a majority Hispanic county, like that was very new for me and super valuable. As far as education goes, I don't think that the location of the education matters so much per se. If you can get really varied experiences like Beth was talking about within a state, then you don't need to leave. I mean, California is also like one of the biggest states. So staying in California, it feels like you've gone another state away when you drive north or drive south. But I don't think the location is as nearly as important as what you're looking for and what sort of variety you're hoping to experience. I think that's a lot more important. To be honest, Western Michigan to Michigan State, not that different. My Kodai program at CSUB, totally different than Western Michigan or Michigan State.
All right, and does anybody else have anything they want to input about the topic instead of me choosing this time?
I'll say just really quickly, if you are looking at going to do a grad program, do your homework and go and talk to the graduate students there. They will give you more insight than anybody else at the school as to what the program is like. Fabian, you were talking about like red flags and green flags. I would actually counter that. Like the grad student experience is both a red flag and a green flag. If you go there and the grad students want to talk to you, they're really excited about the program, they have a lot of great things to say, but they're honest, they tell you what's, the problems with it and whatnot, that's a grad program you want to be in. The grad program where you walk in and either the grad students look beat down because they're so overworked, or they only have good things to say, is probably something to be a little bit wary of. So go do the homework. And most people, I mean, I'm sure that all the grad students in here would be happy to talk to a prospective grad student completely off the record. So just, email the director. Usually they're pretty free about giving out, like, here's the numbers of my grad students if they want to, be in touch. So do your homework, go talk to the people that are there doing the thing that you want to do. So you get a good idea of what you're getting yourself into.
Awesome. And then, wow, time actually passed by a lot faster than I thought it would. One last question. So for our graduated grad students, I wanted to know, do you guys have any advice that you would like to impart on our current grad students? So it's starting with Beth.
Oh, so I am the graduated person with advice to give. Oh, don't graduate during a pandemic. Good luck with that. Yeah, I don't know if I have any really sage words for you all. Just, keep working. Good luck.
Jack?
I am not a graduated grad student, so am I speaking to the undergrads? I'm in my first year of my master's.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. To the grad students or undergrad students.
I guess I will roll my advice into the question I didn't end up answering, which is regarding graduate schools and picking graduate schools. Really consider how much you want to pay, and then think about when you're 40, how much you wish you would have paid for grad school, and be willing to look farther to get a degree for free, quote unquote. I said to Alex, paying for a master's degree is a crime. Like if you go somewhere, and I strongly believe that. So to me, it's not worth it. I want to own a house someday. So I'm not like, if I, when I'm applying for PhD programs next year, if I don't get accepted to a program that covers my tuition and pays me an assistantship on top of it, I just won't get a PhD. It won't be the right time. I'll go teach because my career is not everything to me anymore. And it can't be.
All right, and then Alex, I am fairly certain that you've already graduated. What you got for us?
I think I have something on the wall over there that says I did it. I guess my parting wisdom for anybody who's about to graduate is hopefully it's not too late for you to have done everything you can have done in that program that you're graduating from. It is up to you all, and if you're about to go into another program, it is up to you to do your best. It is not up to any teacher. Kind of Jack was mentioning earlier that like a teacher can only take you so far, but at the end of the day, it's your work that's going to make you look like a shining star in front of everybody else. And they want to hire people, and they want to know people that work hard, that are good at what they do. You know, it's never too late to do your best. And grad school can be crippling at any good moment. Just the amount of work that there is to be done sometimes can feel just crushing to you. But just always remind yourself to keep pushing through that, push through that pain, because it really, that's in the end, what you end up with is people look at you as the person who got all those things done, and they want to hire you at the end of the day. So always, always, always just try your best, even when it feels like you just want to die a little bit. And that's true all the way through this doctoral program that I'm in. I think I was mentioning to Pia before we started, like, my soul is pretty crushed this week about, I mean, it's like only Tuesday, and I'm feeling like I'm not going to make it till tomorrow. But you know, just keep pushing through. You can do it. It's totally doable.
All right, and now I would like to direct, or JB.
I just wanted to kind of respond to a question kind of sort of in the chat and just add on to something from that. In terms of finding out like what the financial situation of a graduate school you're thinking about is. So the way that I did it was, there were graduate schools where like, if you're considering a graduate school, then there is no reason at all whatsoever that I can think of that you can't email the person in charge of that graduate school and say, hey, I'm interested in this graduate school. Can we get on the phone and talk about it? Or, hey, I'm interested in this graduate school, and what's that? I'll be in your neighborhood next week on Friday. Like, let me come visit. Will you show me around? Like, if you are interested in their graduate school, then, like, you are a VIP. If you are interested in their graduate school and they're not treating you like a VIP guest, answering your questions, trying to, like figure out what they can do to help get you there, then that would be very alarming. So, like, I'd never heard of Jeffrey Benson in my life, and I didn't know him from Beth or whatever, you know, like 2 years ago. So I emailed him and said, hey, let's talk about this. I hear there's a graduate program at some school called SJSU. Let's talk about it. And so I just got on the phone with him for a couple hours, and we just had a nice chat. And it'd be like, in those chats, it'd be really weird if you didn't walk away from that chat without a complete understanding of what the financial situation of going to that school is.
Awesome. Yeah. As I was directing the attention to our chat and to our audience, I was going to say, does anybody have any pressing questions that you guys wanted to ask our amazing group of panelists? Brian, who is a few feet away from me.
Hi, Fabian's laptop. Just kidding. Oh, did you guys hear that or not? It's cool. All right. Dang it. I'm just curious. So, like, I kind of get this vibe sometimes that I feel like grad students might have to act different than undergrads. Is that, I don't know, I just get that rumor. Is that true? And if that's true, would that mean I would have to maybe because as a hype crazy person, would I have to maybe very tone it down and all that good stuff, you know?
I would say find a program that wants you for you, first of all. But the second part of that would be, there is a point at which you need to be the adult in the room. Like, I'm conducting an undergraduate choir right now. And one of the other master's students was considering hanging out with some of the undergraduate students. And I was like, not me, enjoy, have fun. I have to be an adult. I need some division. Now, it totally depends on your environment and what you're comfortable with. But for me, I was not comfortable with that, because while I want the undergraduate students to feel a connection to me and that I am available and that I am interested in who they are as people, I don't want them to feel like I am their peer. I'm not going to go binge drink with them on the weekends. when I was 21, that is what I did with my peers who were 21. When that random 28-year-old showed up at a party, we were all like, the what? And I don't want to be that guy. My time has passed.
Jack, you can just come binge drink with me. It's going to be fun.
All right, and Beth, I think I saw your hand.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, going back to Jack's point, I think from earlier about being yourself always, right? Like, Brian, you have to find the version of you that is a responsible adult and maybe can still do like some of those Brian things that you do now of like hyping your students up, however that looks, you know, whatever's true to you and your personality. But yeah, like people have been saying, there are just unfortunately some divisions that you have to draw. And like for all of you that were undergrads while I was a grad student at SJSU, I love you so much, and I would love to have been friends with you in that kind of like let's binge drink together way, but it's just not something that you can do in that position, you know, with having these people as your students, but also in some ways your peers. You need to draw those distinctions a little better.
And Katie, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I figure since we have both kinds of people, based on your experience, do you think it was beneficial going to grad school right out of undergrad, or taking a couple of years to either, you know, work in a school or work somewhere else? As someone who is starting to look at the future and what that may hold, I'm very curious in what everyone's answers are.
All right, I saw Alex's hand first.
If you can, and I will say this with a big asterisk because #COVID, if you can, go work first. More graduate schools will take you seriously if you have teaching experience under your belt. If you, for whatever reason, want to continue and do a doctorate after that, doctorates will not accept you without 2, 3, sometimes 4 years of experience under your belt. They will pass you by because there are tons of other people out there that both have a master's degree and have teaching experience. If you are able to do it, go work for 3 years. Also, side note on that, it teaches you a hell of a lot about being a teacher that you did not learn in a classroom at SJSU as part of the education program. There is no school in existence that can teach you how to be a teacher more than falling flat on your face week 2 of your program does. So if you can, go work first. That being said, if that's not in your cards and you think you can go right through, and I know a lot of very successful people that went right through all the way to their doctorate, managed to get all the way through and then walked out into these teaching positions. It happens, all of those things. I think that in today's climate, you really want some teaching experience under your belt before you go and do a master's degree or a doctorate.
I see Kyle's hand.
Just to add to that too, I truly believe you're gonna get more out of your master's when you have something to apply it to. Because I have, you know, the experience of being in the classroom when Dr. Benson says something, it's like, oh, that's why that didn't work. Or, you know, little moments like that. It's, you know, the teaching model of you have to put Velcro on the wall for them to stick to. And so that's the same idea. So you want to have that experience. Also, I will just throw it out there. I don't know the validity of this. This was just something I was told in my undergrad. If you go straight onto a master's and then try to teach in most public schools after having a master's, they're not going to want to hire you because they have to pay you more, but you don't have as much experience as someone else. And so they're going to take someone who taught for 2 years with a bachelor's degree over you who have a master's and no experience. That could also just be a Michigan thing, so I'm not going to say this is a hard and fast rule, but that's just something I have heard.
All right, and Noah, not to put you in the hot seat, how do you feel that, you know, because you went from undergrad to master's fairly quickly, how do you feel that your age has impacted your relationship with your peers, your students, and your professors?
First of all, thanks, Kyle, for that encouraging words. That really makes me feel better about my life choices. Anyways, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking around. Yeah, I've been thinking about that, and I'm just thinking back to my first few weeks at SJSU doing my first rehearsals with choral leaders. I mean, Beth and Alex were there, so they can attest to this. I think I was just mostly dealing with huge amounts of imposter syndrome, and I'm not going to say that the solution is to just like not do that because it's hard. I would just say that maybe the best thing to do in terms of like coming into a situation where like you're not much older than like the people around you, is to just make sure you know what you're talking about in terms of making your lesson plans and making sure you're prepared for every rehearsal. The other thing I would say is just don't be afraid to say when you don't know something. I mean, you've probably heard that a ton, but I would rather like be faced with a question and say, hey, I don't really know the answer either, but I'll do some digging and find out for you, rather than try to pride myself and try to prove that I know more than that person, especially when it's like an undergrad asking the question. Just don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm not really sure, but I can figure that out for you and get back to you, especially if it's like a music related question. Just purely in terms of like navigating the whole age thing. It just takes time to get used to, honestly. One thing that's helped for me, honestly, is just finding places to sort of code switch, meaning that just gaining the skill of like, navigating the way that you act during a rehearsal, before rehearsal, after rehearsal, around fellow grad students like Alex and Beth, around professors like Dr. Brown and Dr. Benson. You're not going to be acting the exact same way. We were kind of talking about finding a genuine version of yourself that you can present to your students. That's what I worked a lot on last year, was just navigating all those different social situations, and just finding different ways I could express myself in a genuine way, while still, asserting that leadership role. That was kind of a very rambling answer, but those are just some thoughts.
No, yeah, it was great. All of the answers have been really great. Are there any last questions that we have before we wrap up? Brian?
Just curious. So what I'm gonna miss a lot, like at SJSU, before I go into like grad programs or credential programs, is like the clubs, like MUFI, ACDA, my Spartones, pitch please. Is that something like, what's the probability of grad students, specifically music, going back to these kinds of clubs, like on campus? Like, is there's just like, you just have to like cancel it out in a way, or you don't, or like, how much time commitment would it take away, if that's an easier way to put it?
So
sorry.
No, I was gonna just really quickly to jump in. I think that first of all, it depends on the school you go to. If you are looking for that kind of thing, then you need to look for probably a pretty large music program. IU is one of the largest music programs in the country, and that kind of thing is rampant here. I am singing with a little like professional 8-voice choir that was started here on campus as a club and turned itself into this professional ensemble and that's just, it exists here on campus. I wasn't that, that's one example of many that happen here. So if you're looking for that, then there are programs that will offer you, a lot of people to do that. That being said, if you look for smaller programs, you might not find that as much. I will, with that caveat, say that graduate school will rule your life. I think more so than your undergraduate did. And you will get both plenty of musical experience and or scratching that itch in a graduate program. You are just by nature forced into those things. But if you really want the like personal side of that, which I really encourage you to do, then find a big school you can do that at.
And then JB, I believe I saw your hand.
I mean, I can't speak from experience as a graduate student in person because I've never been a graduate student outside of a pandemic. But in terms of professional teacher life, like in college, I really loved singing in like 3 different extra choirs outside of the main choir and the pop ensembles, etc. But then as a teacher, like, well, Monday nights we had rehearsal at school, but Tuesday nights I was either doing Houston Symphony Chorus with like 100 of the like colleagues and just other fellow music educators and musicians, or I was doing Bach Society of Houston again with like similarly aged professional vocal musicians. Wednesday, some years I had church choir, another place where a lot of other people were hired to connect with fellow similarly aged professional musicians. Thursday was like my only day off, and then Friday I would be in synagogue. And so like it in terms of as a professional, at least in Houston, and I'm sure it's the same at least in the Bay, like it is very easy to find like groups of similarly aged, similarly skilled musicians with similar interests to like do things with in evenings.
I can speak from the fraternity perspective. I would not recommend pledging a fraternity while you are a master's student. We had people do it while we were at Western, and we made, so I'm in Phi Mi Alpha and Kappa Kappa Psi, and we made it work for those graduate students, and we expected less of them. But like when you're an undergraduate in a fraternity, like there's a weird expectation that you're gonna like major in the fraternity. And when you're a graduate student, and like that was me, I got a double major in fraternal studies like in undergrad, like know the knocks, like I still remember, like I can like tell you my oaths, like it was a huge part of my life. As a graduate student and being 31, my relationship to the fraternity has changed over time. So I think that will probably be true in some fashion for you too. If you go back to school right away, you're going to still have that same bond and you're going to have that same desire. Going to a chapter that may or may not be similar, you know, that could determine how much you want to be involved as well. But for me, like I'm an alumni or an alumnus, I guess. Like it's not my job to be involved in their daily matters. Like, yes, I have experience and I want to reach out to them and be supportive, but like, I can't, like, that's not my gig anymore. Like it's their chapter to have, you know? So I think just be aware of some of those changing dynamics as you get older, as you graduate, you're an alumni member, all of that.
All right, awesome. A lot of really great questions and answers today. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I've got to turn over the reins to Pia for some last minute ACDA stuff. But if the grad students want to stay a little bit longer, we can continue the Q&A in the chat. But yeah, Pia, take it away.
All right. Before I kind of like take everything away, I just want to say thank you so much, Fabian, for organizing this event. Like everybody give him a round of applause. You can unmute and give him a shout out or whatever. And I'd also like to thank Jack, Kyle, Alex, JB, Beth, Noah. Thank you all so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I know that so many of us in ACDA have been really wanting to ask all of these questions, and I'm sure there are so many more. So yes, as Fabian said, you can stick around if you'd like to continue answering questions. ACDA chapter members, we will be staying just a couple of minutes. I just have a few last minute things. I'm going to stop this recording now, but thank you again.